So now our Smart URL class is built up pretty far, has a lot of functionality, and this is when you can even give it more functionality by adding static methods. Static methods allow you to call the class in one line. I use these a lot. It makes your code very readable. So let's comment all of this out, and what we want to do is say basically this: echo smart URL ::, and then say something like build link. We want to send it a base URL. We want to send it a file, and then we want to send the parameters. Let's say comma separated. So what this is going to do is build an HTML hyperlink for us using the information that we provide, taking care of all the messy question mark, ampersand, slashes, etc. that has to be taken care of. And the reason why it can do that is everything, basically all of this here, all of these lines, hides behind one static method. And the way we're doing this is a good way to build your classes. Go into your code and write the code that you would write your dream code, so to say. Write exactly the way you want to access your class, and then build onto your class so that that line that you wrote actually works. So what we need to do here is make a static method called buildLink. Let's make this a lowercase b just to be consistent. You'll notice that the public methods are called with these arrows and static methods are called with the double colons. A static method means that you don't have to instantiate the object first, because in the static method you usually do that. So let's just, without further ado, do an example here. Build link. And what are we sending? We're sending the URL, the file, and let's call this parameter list. So URL, file, and parameter list. And basically, we need all of this code. Let's just take it and put it down here. Indent. And so let's start. Label this, build the object. So smart URL equals new smart URL. So the class in the static method is instantiating an object by using itself, so to say. And we want to send the URL. To be consistent, let's call it the base URL. Base URL. And then we want to send the file. We'll just pass on the file that he sent here. There's text as well. Let's say that we want to add a text. Click here for code. Okay. I think there's something wrong with this here. There is some kind of problem. Let's see, he's got a single quote there, single quote here, single quote there, and a single quote there. Looks all right. Let's see, is it this here? Okay, it was just this code in here somewhere. So we pass on the base URL, the file, and now the text is going to be passed as well. There we go. Pass on the text. So text, there we go. Now he sent a parameter list. So we need to pick it apart, add parameters from parameter list. And this is where I always copy a bit of code so that the next person who's looking at the code, or when I'm looking at the code in 2 months, I know approximately what's going on here, or what kind of value the parameter list has. So there we have it. And now we want to go through this and convert it into parameters and add them. So let's do that with a explode function. Parameter pairs equals explode. Let's see here. We have a comma. So use a comma to break them apart, and send the parameter list, of course. Okay, so now parameter pairs is going to be an array of this and this. So we want to go through that for each. Parameter pairs. Parameter pair. So now we have a parameter pair in this loop. For instance, ID equals 124. So we want to split that up again. Let's call this variables, and I always call this parts. So parts equals explode, and now we want to split with equals, and what do we want to split? The parameter list. And now, just to be clear, let's say key equals parts 0 and value equals parts 1. Super. So at this point, we have the key and the value for each parameter. So we just need this code here. We'll call this add the key and value to as a parameter or whatever. That's the thing we need. We don't want to add ID in 123, but key and value. Super. So we've done all of this. So now up to this point, we have our whole object packed with information, all of the information that it sent, the base URL, the file, the text, and the parameters. And now we want to render the link. So we are outputting a string here. So let me use my template again. We define an outgoing string as R is empty. And at the end, we're going to return R. And here we're going to render it to the outgoing variable. There we go. I always add it to what's there just in case we add some more. So this we don't need. And it renders a link. It's still called smart URL. Super. Okay. Let's test it. So we go up here, and this is what we originally wanted to do, build link, So what should our output be? Let's think. It should be www.tingway.info-web, and then /code_example.php, and it should have these parameters on it. We can see that down in the status line, and this should be the text of the link. Let's see if it worked. Looks good. There's the text. And when we look down here, if you look down here, when I mouse over, it has almost the correct information. Interesting that there's a comma after the 124. A bug. Let's go debug. So there's a comma after the 124. It seems to not have split that up correctly. Here we have the explode. So let's do a little debugging here. Let's see what parameter pair is at this point. We can just echo parameter pair and see what it is. Let's do this here. So it's on one line. So that looks okay. Okay. And then we split it up with equals. All right. So let's see what parts are here. Let's see what key is, for instance. Key equals key, and then value equals value. Value. So key equals ID. Let's put this on one line again. So key equals ID 124 comma status. Now that's interesting. Value 124 comma status. Comma status. So the problem is here. This should not be parameter list. It was taking that whole string to be the key and the value, which is of course not right. That should be parameter pair. That was the bug. He has been squished. Let's make sure. So and now we have perfect. If you look down in the status line, down here, we see we have code example PHP. ID equals 124 and status equals print. We can click and we get to a different code example, which is what we want. And now We will see the power of all of this in that we can make as many of these as we want. That means because of all of our hard programming, object-oriented programming work, we can now make all kinds of links. Click here for another code example, 125, and add all kinds of info equals yes, voting equals no, or whatever that you have on the page. We're going to have to do this here because we have more than one. Okay. So let's look at what we have. So now we have two links, that one and this one, and all of the parameters are correct. You see that it works. Goes to a different code example. And so you can see you can make these very quickly since we have abstracted all of the functionality of building the parameters, etc., knowing if there's a text or not, that kind of thing, all into one static method.